the deadliest mass shooting in our nation's history.
This was an act of terror and an act of hate.
Next on the KUSI News at 10, the latest after a shooting in Orlando leaves dozens dead and communities in fear.
And closer home, a terrifying discovery. Police find a truck filled with explosives just hours before a festival in West Hollywood.
And here in San Diego, community leaders are pushing a new plan to keep teens and children safe from gangs.
And a little warmer weather ahead for San Diego. Also ahead, Flag Day and tonight's World of Wonder. That and a whole lot more of the KUSI News at 10 starts now.
This is the KUSI News at 10.
Good evening, everyone. I'm David Davis.
And I'm Ashley Rodriguez. Thanks so much for joining us. Thousands of people across the country are mourning the death of at least 50 members of the LGBT community in Orlando, Florida. But the terror didn't stop there. A man armed with explosives and an arsenal of guns and ammunition was arrested in Los Angeles. Police say he was intending on harming people at the Los Angeles Gay Pride Parade. But first, we begin with the mass terror shooting in Orlando.
Yes, an act of terror is what police are calling the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. At least 50 people killed, 53 people hospitalized following a shootout and massacre at an Orlando nightclub early this morning.
Attacks on any American, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation, is an attack on all of us.
June 12, 2016 now marks the worst U.S. terror attack since 9/11 and the worst mass shooting in American history. 29-year-old Omar Mateen, armed with an assault rifle and handgun, opened fire inside a popular gay nightclub in Orlando.
It was just one after another, after another, after another. After everybody was out, the shootings were still going, and the cops were yelling, "Go, go, clear the area, clear the area."
At least 50 people were killed, more than 50 hospitalized. And as the day broke, hundreds of people began lining up at a local blood bank to donate. Police say Mateen was a U.S. citizen of Afghan descent, living in Fort Pierce, Florida with his family. He called 911 during the ordeal to pledge allegiance to ISIS.
Do we consider this an act of terrorism? Absolutely. We are investigating this from all parties' perspective as an act of terrorism.
Authorities say the shooting began about 2 o'clock this morning. Once on scene, police engaged in a shootout with the gunman outside the club. They say he somehow made his way back inside. The shootout turned into a hostage situation lasting for several more hours. Police say the gunman was later shot and killed by SWAT team officers after they broke their way into the club with an armored vehicle to help as many people as they could get out. World leaders are also reaching out to the victims of the Orlando terror attacks. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, as well as Queen Elizabeth II of England, extended their condolences to President Obama.
And closer to home, a man was arrested in Los Angeles, and police say he was on his way to the Los Angeles Gay Pride Parade. Santa Monica police arrested a suspect who they say was prowling around the route of the parade. The police received a tip from someone in the area saying the unnamed suspect may be armed and dangerous. And upon arrest, police say the man had multiple guns, including an assault rifle and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Although the arrest just came hours after the worst mass shooting in U.S. history, the parade continued on schedule.
46 years ago, we took to the streets to march against violence, and we are doing the same thing today. And I encourage everyone to come out and support the community and be part of this.
I want to thank Santa Monica Police Department for their good work and for the tip of a neighborhood person who led to that arrest.
Now, police officials say they do not believe this incident is related to the shooting in Orlando. Just hours after that man was arrested in Santa Monica, the Los Angeles Pride Parade got underway. Hearts were heavy on this day of celebration after the tragic news of what happened earlier this morning in Florida.
And to find out that, like, somewhere where people were having fun and somewhere where people were just celebrating who they were was now being, like, monsters, and like to be attacked in that way and like be trapped in like somewhere where you're supposed to feel safe and be who you are, it was scary. And we were all like, okay, well, at least there'll be a lot of people here, it'll be out in the open. But to be somewhere and trapped and feel like that just for being who you are, it's crazy.
We wanted to come out. We didn't want fear to win. We heard obviously about what happened last night. We heard all the reports coming out of Orlando, and we wanted to be here supporting the community. We didn't want fear to win. We wanted to come out and show our pride.
That was Los Angeles. Here in San Diego, over 1,000 people turned out for a vigil tonight in honor of those victims.
KUSI's John Soderman joins us live from Hillcrest with that part of the story. John?
Yeah, today at that rally, Councilman Todd Gloria told the LGBT community the following: I want you to go out tonight to Hillcrest, and I want you to go out to our bars. I don't want you to be afraid. And that's exactly what's happening tonight. This bar here, Flicks, is absolutely packed. Meantime, this is what the rally looked like, attended by over 1,000 people.
A sea of support, sympathy, and empathy for their LGBT brothers and sisters in Orlando. 50 murdered, over 50 others wounded by a gunman who reportedly pledged his allegiance to ISIS. As over 1,000 people stand strong in Hillcrest, San Diego City Councilman Todd Gloria, who is gay, tells the crowd the gunman chose the wrong type of nightclub to target.
You know, our movement, in many ways, started in a bar. Am I right? Yeah. And that movement was many, many decades ago, and yet we fought and we persisted and we continued until we won our freedom to marry. Am I right? And so to any terrorist or hater who wants to put us back in the closet, are we going to go back? We never will.
We're with Orlando. We're with LA, even though that person got caught right away. Thank God that person got caught before anything could have happened in the parade this morning. I got a message earlier on Facebook that told me to go back in the closet, and I said no. Absolutely not. I'm here, I'm out, I'm loud, I'm proud. Thank you.
San Diego does not support hate. San Diego does not support bigotry. San Diego does not support terror and will fight it every single day and every single night.
There are no specific credible threats to San Diego or specifically to the LGBT community. However, having said that, is that if you have already seen is that we have increased significantly our security posture throughout our entire city, and particularly right here where our LGBT wonderful community congregates.
Meantime, this message brought to us by a local Chaldean leader who has been warning us about ISIS for the last 2 years.
Today, we lost 50 of our brothers and sisters in the LGBT community. ISIS has killed Christians, they've killed the Yazidis, and now they're killing the LGBT. Enough is enough.
And tomorrow, the Hillcrest community will hold another big rally and a march through Hillcrest starting at 6:30. In Hillcrest, John Soderman, KUSI News.
John.
Well, as you just heard, local politicians are joining others in expressing their thoughts and feelings on the tragic event that took place in Orlando. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer sent out this tweet earlier today. San Diego stands united with the people of Orlando. Our sincere condolences to the families affected by this horrible act of violence. San Diego City Councilmember Todd Gloria, whose district represents the community of Hillcrest, had this to say: the brutal massacre in Orlando, which took 50 innocent lives and injured 53 more, is an attack on all Americans and our values of freedom and inclusion that are the foundation of our nation.
Well, there were vigils in many U.S. cities tonight honoring the victims. Government flags have been ordered at half-staff by President Obama as well. So just to recap, in Orlando, at least 50 dead, more than that injured tonight. The shooter was killed at the scene by law enforcement. He is said to have pledged allegiance to ISIS in a 911 call. And in Santa Monica, a man was arrested with a massive arsenal of weapons as well as possible explosive devices. Police say he told them he was on his way to the LA Gay Pride festivities.
The United States has a tragic history of mass shootings, the bulk of them within the last 20 years. Topping the list of deadly shootings was today's in Orlando at the Pulse Nightclub. Initial reports say 50 are dead and dozens more injured. Virginia Tech shooting on April 16th of 2007 claimed the lives of 32 people, making it the deadliest college shooting in history. Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 14th of 2012 shocked the nation when 26 people were killed, 20 of which were young children in their classrooms. And finally, one of the first mass shootings to gain notoriety was on April 20th, 1999 at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. 13 people killed, 12 students and 1 teacher.
The governor of Florida has declared a state of emergency tonight in Orlando because of these terror attacks.
Dianne Gallagher joins us live from Orlando with the latest. Dianne, it's still an active scene behind you. Tell us what's going on at this point.
Well, Dave, actually, if you actually take a look behind me, you can see they still have it blocked off here. The actual club, Pulse, about a block and a half behind me. And it's been this way essentially all night long. We've seen the federal vehicles come in. We've seen the emergency vehicles come in and out. You've seen other cars with officials inside them coming throughout on the street here. And at the same time, you have a heavy stream of people coming and just wanting to kind of be here right now.
You know, Dianne, we're hearing the death toll from early this morning. It still stands at 50, and then we hear these gut-wrenching stories all evening about families trying to find out about their loved ones. Are they in the hospital? Are they dead? It's just been horrible.
It really is. I'm going to tell you the story that really gives me the chills the most, and each time I hear it from people, it's so awful, because you hear that the officers, they say that they went inside this club afterward, and in addition to there being bodies everywhere trying to figure out who was alive and who was dead, they started hearing cell phones going off, and they heard text message alerts, and they knew that these were the family members, these were the friends, these were mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers trying to find out if their loved one was one of the people who didn't make it out. And just the thought of those phones going off is really difficult. You hear the stories of the survivors, the people who did anything that they could do to make sure that they got out alive. The woman in the bathroom, she said that she covered herself in dead bodies and played dead until the officers came in and asked if anybody was alive, please raise your hand. That's when she knew she was okay. The entertainers who barricaded themselves inside of a dressing room and were able to crawl out a tiny hole in the wall that police officers had pulled an air conditioning unit out of. Those stories of survival, and the people who stopped, the medical student who did tourniquets for people, we're getting those stories today, and they really do. They're chilling to hear.
Absolutely. And what can we expect tomorrow? Obviously, you're still talking to people out there, and they're still gathering information, investigators. What can we expect to come out? Have they told you anything about that?
So what we do think may be able to start happening tomorrow is the hope is we'll start to get more names of those victims. Only 8 of the 50 people killed have been identified at this point. And of course, when you have a massacre like this, of this magnitude, 50 individuals, it does take a long time to identify all of the bodies. It does take a long time to find the family, notify them before you can release those names. So a lot of people in Orlando tell us they're just waiting to find out if someone they knew may have been one of the victims, or if maybe they're in a hospital, if somebody was injured that they knew. So right now it appears that they are waiting to find out more about these victims. As far as the suspect is concerned, that gunman, they allowed people back into the building late tonight, probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, that he lived in, after the FBI put a robotics team inside his condo to make sure that there was nothing there that would pose any dangers to anyone else who lived inside that building. They'd been evacuated for the most part of today. So slowly but surely, people who live in Fort Pierce, which is where his condo was, have been allowed to kind of assume somewhat of their normal life again, at least going back home.
And hopefully the death toll doesn't climb any higher overnight. Dianne Gallagher, thank you very much. We appreciate your time in Orlando.
Well, ahead, community leaders are pushing with a new plan to keep teens and children safe from gangs. Still ahead on the KUSI News at 10, a group of former gang members are coming together to reduce violence this summer.
And when the regular visiting hours are over, people will get to experience something special at a nearby monument when we come back. Some breaking news to tell you about out of Southcrest this evening. Firefighters have responded to a call of a vegetation fire there in the 1700 block of Thor Street. That happened, about 30 minutes ago now. The northbound 5 freeway transition to the northbound 15 has been closed at the moment, as you see, and these are live pictures. As you see here, it looks like they have it under control, that it was no big deal, but we just don't know exactly what has happened. Only a quarter acre at this point. Looks like it's knocked down. One house was threatened, but again, from the looks of it, it seems like they've got it under control.
Authorities are still on the lookout for a man wanted in connection with a suspicious death in Allied Gardens. Police say Raymond McLeod is a person of interest in the death of his girlfriend, Crystal Mitchell. Her body was found Friday afternoon in an apartment on Mission Gorge Road. Investigators say McLeod was driving a white 4-door sedan with Arizona plates. He may have also fled to Mexico. If you think you've seen this man, give San Diego police a call. One person was killed and another hospitalized this afternoon when the SUV they were riding in rolled off the 15 freeway and down an embankment just south of Arrow Drive. The car then caught fire before coming to a stop on Murphy Canyon Road. A woman passenger was ejected and pronounced dead at the scene. The male driver had to be removed from the wreck and was taken to the hospital.
The San Diego Youth Development Foundation is leading a group of former San Diego gang members in an effort to help reduce violence this summer. The program is called Summer Night Lights, and it will promote positive youth development through programs and services to bring communities together. Organizers are now trying to get the city to support and fund them.
Because this is the first year and a lack of funding, we kind of narrowed it down to 3 parks. And so the 3 parks that we're looking at is Colina del Sol Park, which is this park. We're looking at Skyline Park, and we're looking at Mira Mesa Park. And so we're hoping that on Monday, which the City Council will be meeting, that Murder-Co is going to be presenting a request to add funding to the budget so that we can get funding for this.
All right, that'll happen tomorrow. We'll let you know. Summer Night Lights is based on a program that began in Los Angeles in 2003. And something very cool is happening tomorrow night at the Cabrillo National Monument. After regular visiting hours are over, the monument will be open for Park After Dark. The San Diego Astronomy Club will provide telescopes for stargazing, and there will be tours to take groups around the trails. The event is free to members of the Cabrillo National Monument Foundation, and it's $25 for non-members, and hopefully it'll be a clear night tomorrow night for the astronomers.
Yeah, hopefully, and we can find out. KUSI meteorologist Dave Scott joins us with what we can expect. Hey, Dave.
Well, we're still going to see the marine layer, and it is, because it's the time of the year, June gloom is really prevalent. However, it's going to start weakening a little bit. Yeah, we're in for warmer weather ahead in San Diego. When the marine layer starts to thin out, it gives the atmosphere a little extra chance to warm up. And that's what we're going to see as we get through the rest of this week. We saw it a little bit today. In fact, look at this. Nancy Ramsey sending this in along the coastline in downtown, and this was taken from Coronado. My friends, it is beautiful. Just a few. You can almost count. Let's see, David Davis can count this. 1, 2, 3. It's like being back in Sesame Street, isn't it? Take a look at this. Here, 69 degrees today, almost 70 degrees, 63, 62. So temperatures even overnight, just about normal there for the 30-year average. Looking good in San Diego. Temperatures in the inland valleys, much warmer. Only in the upper 60s yesterday. Today, upper 70s, Escondido, Poway, 74 in El Cajon today, 72 in Humboldt, 70 in La Mesa. Still nice and comfy there. Along the coast, Coronado, 70, 69 in Chula Vista, 72 in Imperial Beach. Nice in the mountain areas, 71 degrees. It's been warmer typically in the mountains above that marine layer. And the marine layer has been topping out at about 4,500 feet, at about 3,000 feet deep. And it's not allowed for a whole lot of heating, but it thinned out a little quicker today, and we got some extra sunshine. But temperatures right now dropped into the upper 50s in the inland valleys, 61 Escondido, as well as Carlsbad, 62 in Chula Vista, 80 in Borrego Springs, a nice cool down there, 44 in Mount Laguna. Around the coast, 64 degrees, and we're still seeing some clouds out there, although it's not too bad. Inland valleys, I think you're going to like it, 61, nice and comfy. Mountain areas, clear skies, 44 in the desert areas, 82, winds north-northwest. We'll have more coming up in just a little while.
All right, not
Thank
too
you for
bad
that.
out there.
No, not at all.
They defied the odds, beating life-threatening conditions.
Still ahead on the KUSI News at 10, the emotional celebration for local cancer survivors.
I'm Michael Turco. A hardwood flooring disaster that's hard to believe, and this floor is not even a year old. The Turco Files tonight.
So he called KUSI's Michael Turco about a hardwood flooring job that went sideways.
Turco says he spent over $15,000 on that flooring, and now half of it needs to be replaced.
He was counting on custom hardwood floors to turn his home into a showplace. The floors went in late last summer, but by this February, he had a real problem. The wood buckled so badly, people were tripping over it, and he says the company he bought it from is still dragging their feet. A rug in their Escondido living room covers up what happened to their hardwood floors here. The boards had to be pulled out to see what went wrong.
This whole area came buckled, and the wood is all back here.
The glue stuck to the concrete slab, but not the floorboards themselves. The wood came from lumber liquidators. They had it installed throughout the house, upstairs and down.
We were always told by lumber liquidators, this is the hardest piece of wood. There's nothing that's gonna penetrate it, and you won't have a problem with that for years.
You used a contractor recommended by lumber liquidators.
That's correct.
In fact, they work with lumber liquidators.
Yes.
And they did all the work.
And they did all the work. If I didn't use them, then I wouldn't have any warranty on the installation.
He says soon after that installation was done, the floor started making cracking sounds, and when they started moving furniture.
As soon as we lifted up the sofa that was here, that's when that one just came straight up in the air. Not a matter of minutes or days, it came straight up in the air.
You saw it happen?
I saw it happen because the sofa that was here was holding it down. So it just, as soon as we lifted it up, it went up.
And he says new problem spots keep cropping up almost on a daily basis. The floor is uneven. It still makes noises. And check out this area right below my feet. The worst spot is here in the kitchen, where a wooden speed bump has caused numerous severely stubbed toes. He tapped the floor with a metal rod and found more than a dozen areas that sound hollow, all of them downstairs. So far, there's no problem with the flooring upstairs installed over plywood. But on the slab downstairs, he's still finding new trouble spots.
All of this area is very hollow.
He contacted lumber liquidators and made a claim against his warranty. He says he got a runaround for months. So lumber liquidators blamed the installer?
Correct.
That they recommended?
That they recommended. Correct.
And the installer blamed?
Lumber liquidators.
But after an inspection, lumber liquidators agreed to replace the floor at no charge, downstairs only.
I think this is a slap in the face.
He says that's because he'd lose all of his warranty rights, and he's not sure the upstairs flooring will hold up. He'd also have to sign a confidentiality agreement.
I think what bothers me the most is that if something is not done, then other people are going to suffer the same thing that I'm suffering.
The type of bamboo flooring he got from lumber liquidators has now been discontinued. The company says they're going the extra mile by offering to replace it at no charge because their warranty normally doesn't cover labor costs. I'm Michael Turco, only on KUSI News.
If you've got a problem, you know who to call. That would be Turco. 858-571-FILE, 858-571-3453.
Emotional reunions happened all over the country today as part of National Cancer Survivors Day. A local celebration was held at Scripps Green Hospital, and it brought together survivors and current patients battling a variety of cancers. Doctors say these events give hope and serve multiple purposes.
Survivorship is both a celebration, but also an indicator that people need to be cared for and monitored in the long term.
30 years ago, the national cancer survivor rate was about 50%, and today the rate sits around 70%. There are also 14 million cancer survivors in the U.S., but that is expected to grow to 19 million by year 2024.
Coming up on the KUSI News at 10, some are calling it a humanitarian crisis here in San Diego. A new surge of a refugee group and how they are affecting our city.
But first, here's Rick Willis.
All right, thank you. Coming up later on the ASR, the Padres and Rockies wrap it up. Meet the next local boxing sensation. Draymond gets punished for his low blows, so the ASR will be a hit at 15 till.
You're watching the KUSI News at 10.
Many San Diegans are unaware of what's going on at the border these days, but local immigration rights activists are calling it a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, a recent surge in Haitians appearing at the San Ysidro crossing seeking asylum in the United States. Here's KUSI's Ed Linderman.
While the presidential campaign might lead one to believe immigration concerns only concern Mexican migrants, it's easy to forget or overlook that the makeup of immigrants trying to get into the U.S. also includes Central and South Americans, Chinese, and as we saw for ourselves at a local church, Haitians.